All right, guys, we have a huge update to the top 100 starting pitchers in fantasy baseball. There's actually 106 pitchers on this list. There's a monster video. Let's get into it. But quickly, if you guys are not already, please subscribe to the channel down below. Drop the video a like. Let me know what you think about these rankings in the comments. Personalized fantasy baseball is advice for members right there in your desktop browser. And huge shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. Now, as a quick reminder, I like to do these starting pitcher rankings in tiers. And a lot of times, the tier a pitcher is on is much more important than the actual number ranking, which is why, again, I focus on the tiers. And really, the top 10 tiers, which will encompass the top 75 starting pitchers, that's really going to be the meat and potatoes in this video. All 75 of those guys are blatantly very valuable in 12-team leagues. Then after that, the next 31 pitchers are very much more streamers, guys who we're looking at seeing if they can make changes, get to the next level. We're starting out right here, tier 1, a new top pitcher in baseball to me, Jacob Misiorowski, joined by Christopher Sanchez and Paul Skeens. I just want to, at the top of this video, give Misiorowski a huge shout out for having literally, not trying to be hyperbolic, not trying to exaggerate, one of the greatest starts in all of Major League Baseball last Friday, striking out 15 batters in a complete game shutout, one hitter against the Phillies. The most strikeouts ever for a Maddox, and a Maddox is a complete game with fewer than 100 pitches. Also, the one hit that he allowed was a single to Kyle Schwarber. He was later erased in a double play. So Misiorowski only faced the minimum 27 batters in this game. He was literally one bad pitch away from throwing a perfect game. He also did so throwing 75% fastballs that averaged 102 miles per hour. His last 4 or 5 pitches all at the end of the game were all fastballs that were at least 103 miles per hour. It looked like if baseball was a 12-inning game rather than a 9-inning game, he could have gone 3 more scoreless innings. He was that dominant. He was that locked in. I'm pretty sure he's only given up 1 run or something like that since the beginning of May. Right now, to me, Jacob Misiorowski is the best pitcher in baseball. Christopher Sanchez and his unbelievable scoreless inning streak from last month is not far behind. He made Oral Hershiser sweat with that scoreless inning streak. And Paul Skeens also just still settling in and being one of the best, most sturdy, most reliable, most consistent pitchers in baseball. But I just really wanted to give Jacob Misiorowski an especially strong shout out just because of everything we saw last Friday and what he's able to sustain over this entire season. He is an absolute marvel. Now moving on to tier 2, still firm aces here. We have Chris Sale, Tarek Skubal, Zach Wheeler, Chase Burns, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, Cam Schlittler, and Jacob deGrom. Again, these guys are all aces. To me, a step behind the guys at the top. Chris Sale continues to do it, not slowing down whatsoever. Tarek Skubal, back last week off the injured list, the shortest injury recovery ever with surgery for bone chips and elbow. Incredibly impressed. The results weren't good from that first start, but the stuff was very crisp. So I wanted to see 1 or 2 more healthy starts with that fastball velocity staying where it had to be while Skubal gets his command back, just to put him back up with the tier with Skeens, Miz, and Sanchez. I'm also really impressed by Zach Wheeler. His velocity is mostly all the way back, recovering from his thoracic outlet surgery. I honestly can't believe it. The feel for his secondaries is back too. He is a huge riser over the last month, and it's all because he looks healthy, dominant, and someone who, again, right now should be trusted as a true bona fide SP1 fantasy baseball. And a guy who's been creeping up this list this entire season, Chase Burns, he's now defiantly one of the best pitchers in baseball, top of the league in strikeouts, top of the league in velocity, top of the league in swing and miss, one of the lowest ERAs in baseball. But I really love this sequence I'm going to show you guys right now from Burns' most recent start on Monday against Juan Soto from the Mets. Soto did kind of like a cheeky little Bush League play, stepping out when Burns had already come set and was beginning his motion. Granted Soto the time. And then Chase Burns, his video courtesy of Pitching Ninja, by the way, just completely demolished him in the rest of that at bat. Massive sword in this fastball high, disgusting slather to finish him off. Just an absolute display of dominance from, again, someone who's already ascended into being one of the best pitchers in the league. And then the Dodgers, Yamamoto and Ohtani. Yamamoto also almost threw a perfect game on Saturday, right after Miz almost threw his on Friday, if not for the White Sox rallying late. He's just fantastic. Ohtani's fantastic, starting to pitch a little deeper into games right now, too. Cam Schlittler's down this list a teeny tiny bit compared to last month, just because the all-fastball repertoire has had a little bit more speed bumps than usual, but he's still quite dominant. And Jacob deGrom, still just doing whatever Jacob deGrom does. Fantastic seasons from all these guys, and these are all pitchers that I trust 100,000 million % as my SP1 in a fantasy league still. Moving on to tier 3 now is a little bit of a tighter tier. These are guys who are just barely not aces to me right now. It's Dylan Cease, it's Brian Wu, it's Hunter Brown, fresh off the injured list, Joe Ryan, and Drew Rasmussen. Cease back off the injured list last week, had like 13 strikeouts in his first start back against the Phillies. He could still be erratic at times. We're just so happy about Cease expanding his repertoire this year for basically the first time in his career. And now again, ascending up, not even ascending up, kind of just returning. Maybe it's just the even year thing for Dylan Cease like it always is, but trust him a lot. Brian Wu just hasn't really been as crisp lately. The home runs have been a massive issue. I don't expect the home runs to continue to be an issue, but this is just kind of an understanding of what holds Brian Wu back, which is, again, similar to what I was just talking about with Schlittler, similar to what I'm talking about Rasmussen in a second here. It's just so fastball dominant that sometimes, even for a guy like Wu, who has some of the best command in baseball, when that command's not right, and you're just pounding the zone with lots of high pitches especially, sometimes they can just leave the yard. We're always waiting for breaking ball consistency from Wu. I'm sure he'll just even get back to his former height soon without getting that. There's still space up to go for Wu. And for Hunter Brown, I'm recording this video on Tuesday afternoon, so we haven't seen his first start back yet from his injury. With everything we saw from his rehab starts, it looks like the stuff is totally back. If anything super notable happens, I'll add this into post-production on Wednesday. Joe Ryan's sitting 93 miles per hour. The guy's just a straight-up dude. I hope he gets traded to a winning team at the deadline. Rasmussen. Drew Rasmussen from the Rays is pitching the best in his entire career right now. A medical marvel, coming off 2 Tommy John surgeries and he was still in college, and a 3rd serious surgery a few years ago. He's pitching Tuesday night also against the Dodgers, which is a huge start. I'm excited to get home from softball tonight and watch that one. Ace off with Justin Robleski, but 14 innings, 22 starts, 0 earned runs in his last 2 starts, heading into the start on Tuesday night. Rasmussen's one of the biggest risers this year as well in fantasy baseball, getting another year removed from that injury. The Rays now trusting him to go deeper in the games. He's just such a fantastic and perpetually underrated starting pitcher. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. If you guys are not on Prize Picks yet, here's why you should be. First up, the app is super simple. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, lock your lineup, that's it, you're in. There's no complicated strategies, no confusing interfaces. It really is just you, your sports knowledge, and your picks. No more NBA lineups to play, guys, because my Knicks are NBA champions. Let's go. We're so excited about that. But so many baseball lineups to make every single day on Prize Picks. And we have World Cup lineups to make right now on Prize Picks, which are a ton of fun. And I have been on fire lately. So if you guys want to follow me on the app, check out my username right down here so you guys can see all the lineups I make in real time. But the best part, if you're a new user, you can still get $50 worth of lineups just for making your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is download the Prize Picks app, and you can do that with the link in my description and sign up with the promo code HMA. That's promo code HMA, again, link in my description. Make your first $5 lineup, and boom, you get $50 worth of lineups. And Prize Picks is available in most states: Florida, Texas, California, New York. So please, guys, check it out. Use the code HMA when you do, and please, 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 only play if you know you can do so responsibly. Now moving on to Tier 4. To me, these are just rock-solid SP2s in most of our fantasy leagues. And some guys here with some big up arrows. Some guys here also with some weird down arrows, just kind of meandering around. But Logan Gilbert, Logan Webb, double Logan, always stack your Logans. Nathan Eovaldi, Garrett Cole, Kevin Gausman, and Kyle Harrison. Gilbert has been one of the most frustrating pitchers in the whole league this year because while the stuff is still amazing, while the strikeouts are there, while the walks are not there, it still feels like he's just like fighting against himself in half of his appearances. There's always just one of his secondary pitches he can't seem to land, or he just can't really figure out his fastball, and he's either missing high or he's missing in the heart of the plate. And again, that leads him, while he doesn't walk anybody, to being all over the place, oftentimes inside the strike zone. And again, he has the stuff to get out of these jams. He has an overpowering fastball, but just being around the heart of the plate so often makes him hit hard. It makes him perform worse away from T-Mobile Park in Seattle as well. That is T-Mobile, right? Yeah, it's not Safeco anymore. Whatever, you know the gist. It's just been a weird season for Logan Gilbert. I still really like Logan Gilbert. I think I'm higher on him than most right now. I still think he can get on a groove and be back like firmly to the SP1 tier at some point through the second half of the season, but he just is a little bit off those guys right now. Logan Webb, opposite. We're seeing a return of Logan Webb right now. The sinker command is back. The changeup has been diabolical. The sweeper he's got a good feel for again. 3 straight starts, again, heading into play on Tuesday. 7 innings, then 8 innings, then 8 innings. This is classic Logan Webb, a guy who had a rough beginning to the season. Missed some time, I think it was the knee injury, hamstring or a knee. I don't think it was an arm thing. But right now, to me, back being a rock-solid top 20 starting pitcher. And if someone in your league isn't viewing him as such, I think he's a great guy to trade for at the moment. Nathan Eovaldi has been a guy who's been rising over the course of the year. Can still be inconsistent at times with that splitter, but I love the arsenal. I love the deep pitch mix. Garrett Cole really flashed in his second start back. That was against the Royals, where he just had a dominant 7-inning outing. But otherwise, the command's been very choppy. It's forced him to be inconsistent. I think it will come back for Garrett Cole over the next few months. But right now, he's just not really back to being top-line Garrett Cole yet. Kevin Gausman, old reliable, just fantastic command of the fastball and the splitter all season long. And Kyle Harrison, his top-line stats took a hit because he had to pitch in the bandbox that was Las Vegas last week, which was ridiculous. He didn't even pitch that poorly in it, but this to me is still one of the top 25 starting pitchers in baseball, one of the top starting pitcher breakouts in the entire league, and someone that if you got him off your waiver wire early, man, you've just been thrilled with Kyle Harrison this whole season. But one thing that is making me feel a tiny bit weird about Harrison right now is that I was very excited about his changeup just being a wrinkle to show righties in his repertoire that was new coming into the season. He's kind of phased it out lately. Looking at his last 5 starts here, he's only thrown that changeup to right-handed batters 2.5% of the time, 8% of the time, 8% of the time, 9% of the time, and 5% of the time. While he's now throwing that slurve about 30-40% of the time, and the fastball 50-60% of the time. So just keeping an eye out there. That fastball and slurve are great pitches, so I think they can get the job done. But I think it does help him a lot to have those other wrinkles. So something to keep an eye on with Harrison there, possibly battling regression through the second half. Next up, we got tier 5. Still great starting pitchers, fringy SP2s, fantastic SP3s, Gavin Williams, Peyton Tolley, Shane McClanahan, George Kirby, Max Meyer, Nolan McLean, Bryce Miller. A little bit more to say about the guys in this tier. Starting out at Williams, just so impressed by the maturity and the improvement in his command this year, just with how much more he's used his sinker to chase off contact against right-handed batters, get deeper into games, just grow into more of this frontline starter kind of guy. He also pitched my favorite game, I think, to watch altogether this year. It was like a little less than a month ago now. It was a Friday night against Christopher Sanchez and the Phillies, when Sanchez, I believe, broke Cliff Lee's record for most consecutive scoreless innings in Philly history. But Williams matched him for 8 scoreless innings, and the Guardians actually scored the run off of Joan Duran to win that game in the 9th. Just one of those starts where you can watch 2 pitchers in the zone, do whatever they want, which are my favorite kind of baseball games to watch, but really nice to see Williams be able to kind of take on that competitiveness and go toe-to-toe with truly one of the best pitchers in the league. Then I got Peyton Tolley, who's someone I'm higher on the consensus, someone I really beat the drum for you guys to add when he got called up earlier this season. And I think he's fulfilled that. He's performed like a top 25 pitcher all year. I still think he's going to be a top 25 pitcher all year. And in terms of rookie starting pitchers, his floor is much higher than the average ones just because of how dominant his fastball can be, his four-seam fastball, and how he's developed the cutter and the sinker to work off of that. He is still a guy similar to Cam Schlittler who has absolutely no semblance of breaking ball consistency yet whatsoever, even though he had a little bit more curveball consistency last year, but again, doesn't have it right now. But if the consistency with those secondary pitches comes while he still has this incredible fastball quality and command, like this guy's really the limit. Again, he gets by so well just with those fastballs that to me, start in, start out, I'm trusting him a lot. Another guy who, even after a bad little stretch here, I'm still trusting a lot is Shane McClanahan. Just seeing the velocity, the slider, and the changeup all back together, just like Shane McClanahan of old, along with showing just enough curveballs against righties, like it's just a pleasure to watch. He's not going to be all the way back to Shane McClanahan like that we saw 3 years ago. The arm injuries have been too much to overcome, but he to me is a firm top 30 starting pitcher and someone I was a little bit too slow to move up my ranking so far this season. After that, George Kirby just continues to be weird and not that effective or efficient, but I'm still ranking him here. Just kind of know what's inside of him, and George Kirby can be a little bit mercurial at times, so I'm kind of just still hoping he gets by. Worst case scenario, he's still basically an elite pitcher at home. Then another one of the biggest risers this year, Max Meyer. One reason I still tend to be a little bit lower than consensus on Max Meyer is I just have trouble trusting pitchers who are this breaking ball reliant. And again, looking at a guy like Max Meyer, 2 starts ago, last Wednesday against the Diamondbacks, he threw 60 total sliders and 26 total fastballs in his start. That's an insane ratio. And then his last start, he actually outdueled Paul Skeens in the game when the Marlins beat the Pirates, and he threw 66 sliders out of 105 total pitches with 32 fastballs or sinkers. Again, I love what he's doing. He commands those pitches really well. He's especially good at throwing his tight slider inside the zone and forcing hitters to make uncomfortable decisions on it. But this is an approach I just really don't love in the long term, despite the fact that it works really well right now, and he's inside my top 30 kind of firmly. Then Nolan McLean, who I keep watching all of his starts, and I watch him continue to struggle. He's just really lost all the feel for his breaking stuff, and the breaking stuff is what made Nolan McLean so special, especially the fact that he can't spot the curveball against lefties like he was doing for the first dozen starts of his career. That curveball against lefties is the key for Nolan McLean. That's the thing that changed for him in the minor leagues last year, that finally had the Mets promote him in August, and would kind of send him on just like a supernova hot streak to already ascend to being firmly like one of, at his peak, the top 20 or 15 best pitchers in baseball. I think eventually that feel will come back, but without that feel, he's had to lean more on his sinker. I think he's leaned on it too much against left-handed batters. They're able to really track that better, get the barrel on it. He's giving up more hard contact in that pitch than ever before, but it's still all mostly on the ground. Even when Nolan McLean is bad and he can't really figure out his stuff, he's still very good. I do wonder if there could be an adjustment coming from Nolan McLean too, to actually throw his changeup more, but I have to think that changeup is just such an uncomfortable pitch for him because he's one of the key supinators in the league. Supinator means that you're able to more snap on that ball, get better breaking balls. Sometimes pitchers are pronators, which means they get on the inside of the ball and they throw better changeups. McLean still has a good changeup, despite supinating and being so good with his breaking balls. Started to get technical there for a little bit, but there's still so many avenues for Nolan McLean to succeed because of how great and deep his pitch mix is, which is why I still kind of, maybe in your guys' mind, could be overrating him, despite a pretty bad month, 6 weeks now. One guy going in the opposite direction, Bryce Miller from the Mariners. Back for like a month now, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. Looks ridiculously nasty. Fastball's back to 96, 97 miles per hour. Splitter has been awesome, and he's been really, really good, which is something that Miller did in the beginning of his career, of picking spots with all these secondary pitches, letting the fastball be the star, but still having a million different options to confuse hitters as he gets deeper and deeper into at-bats and games. Like, it's a really good foundation right now for Bryce Miller, the one that had us so excited about him 2 years ago when he broke out and heading into last season before the injury struck. Now that he looks totally healthy and has the life back on that fastball, watch out. Moving on to tier 6 now, slide that sucker up. This big lefty tier: Carlos Rodon, Braxton Ashcraft, Ranger Suarez, Parker Messick, Jesus Luzardo, Michael King, Connolly Early, Freddie Peralta. Kind of the inconsistency tier here. A lot of guys who have had really high highs and even really high lows just within this season in general. Rodon's a guy that still looks like he's getting healthy, still getting his sea legs under him. He's flashed being the elite pitcher, especially the one that we saw last year with the improved changeup quality, with mixing in more sinkers from fastballs, just trying to mitigate his loss in velocity. I think he's on the upswing right now. Pretty big buy low for me at the moment, honestly, as he continues to heat up. Braxton Ashcraft has come back down to earth a bit, but he's still getting tons of swing and miss with those secondary stuff, and someone I'm kind of not wavering on in any way, shape, or form at this moment. Ranger Suarez is on a heater. He is steady. He's reliable. He's a guy that I probably underrated too much heading into the year. Parker Messick is coming back to earth a bit. Swing and miss is not the same. His command has kind of gone out right now. At the beginning of the year was so impressive. That changeup can still save him. The deep pitch mix can still save him. But Parker Messick, some guy who's kind of just working on to see if he can get back on like the ace track he was on earlier this year. Jesus Luzardo right in the middle of this. Just the inconsistency will never leave Luzardo. While the fastball is amazing, while the sweeper is amazing, when he gets into a spot where sometimes he loses that fastball command and he can't spot the sweeper, righties just feast on his changeup, and it kind of just continues to happen for him. I don't know if he's ever getting out of that. Same thing with Michael King right now. He looks straight up bad, but I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and leave him in this tier, mostly because King, at his best, has some of the gaudiest, most cocky, incredible command in all of baseball. That command's been bad so far this year. It's been bad for like 2 straight months now, honestly. But command is something that can go in and out, and I think if that command snapped back in, we'd see Michael King ascend to being a top 15 or so pitcher instantly. But right now he's more pitching like the top 50 pitcher, so I kind of put him right in between that. I still want to believe, I still see the good stuff, and think that command's a thing for King that can click in any second. Similarly, Connolly Early. I love the future for Connolly Early. I love how strong the secondaries are and how much he can mix them up against hitters from both sides of the plate. But right now, it's just him being very young and inconsistent. We have such different breaking ball quality for Connolly Early, start in, start out, to the point where it is kind of hard to trust him, but the highs have still been so high, even though the lows have been so weird. It's just, again, it's very difficult to be a young pitcher in the league without dominant fastballs. That's kind of where Connolly Early is. Someone I still believe in tremendously, but also just kind of has to be stuck in this tier with the inconsistent guys right now. And last up, the king of inconsistency. It's 5-inning Freddie Peralta. Just can't get on a roll with the Mets. He's facing these massive lefty lineups, not really facing many right-handed batters at all. That's taking his slider out of the game, and even when he faces the righties, he doesn't really look too comfortable to throw it. Then he's getting too fastball reliant, but that fastball velocity hasn't been there like it's been in years past. It's just a really weird, bad moment in time for Freddie Peralta. The body of work is so strong and consistent that we should believe in him, but I think a very low, unsustainably low ERA last year kind of pushed all of our expectations too high for Freddie Peralta. I still believe true talent-wise, he's a top 30 pitcher in the league, but right now he's ranked closer to a top 40 just because he just can't really find it at the moment. Moving on here to tier 7, this will basically wrap up the entire top 50. We got Emmett Sheehan, Jared Jones, Shota Imanaga, Sonny Gray, Nick Lodolo, Landon Rupp, Kyle Bradish, Framber Valdez, Reed Detmers, and Jose Soriano. As you guys see, the tiers are getting even more and more chaotic as we go. I know Sheehan's results still haven't been there in the wild, talking about Emmett Sheehan, but I just like seeing the velocity consistently get back up to 95 miles per hour. That's where it was last year when he sneakily was one of the most effective pitchers in baseball from August through the end of the season, one of the highest strikeout rates, one of the lowest walk rates, one of the lowest earned run averages. That's the Emmett Sheehan that made me so excited heading into this year, but immediately when he headed into this season, he was throwing more 92, 93 miles per hour. I don't know what was going on with him, but it seems like he's healthy because he's right back up near 95 over the last month of play. If he's back near 95, I think he has a chance to wind up as a top 25 pitcher again. I do want to see him sustain it a little bit more, which is why right now he's still fringy a top 40 guy, but he's someone I'm watching very closely because I think there might be seeing the hints of a very firm green up arrow through the rest of the season. Someone, again, I'd be looking to buy low or be looking to pick up if they were dropped in my shallow 10-team league. Jared Jones, similarly on the Pirates. I think he's the guy in this list who, if I look around all the different websites, ESPN and Yahoo, his rostership rate does not match the skills I see as a pitcher. Someone who's sitting 99 miles per hour with a fantastic slider, passable changeup, and a decent curveball. He came off the injured list immediately after an easy matchup with the Twins where he pitched terribly. He had to face the Astros in Houston, not the easiest team to face, definitely not the easiest park to pitch in. Then he got to face the Dodgers at home, not an easy team to face at all. Then he had to go to Sacramento to face the Athletics. Great lineup, horrible place to pitch. And then later this weekend, he's going to Coors Field. So really getting crushed by the matchups early on after a year-long layoff with Tommy John surgery, trying to shake off the cobwebs, trying to get his command back to the spot where it used to be unbelievably good command. I think Jared Jones is a pitcher that right now every one of us should be targeting no matter what league we play in, because I think he's another guy who, if it coalesces a little bit and when he gets to an easier part of his schedule, which will come as soon as next week, Jared Jones is a guy who has the stuff, the skills to easily be a top 20 pitcher in the league moving forward. I'll stand on that. Then show it to Imanaga. I know it was really bad over the last 6 weeks after you guys yelled at me for ranking him so low in my last rankings. Thank you for that one. But I didn't move him that much in this rankings because I still see a good fastball that has good velocity and good vertical action. He's still placing the splitter pretty well. I'm pretty okay with Shota right now compared to usual. Sonny Gray is next. I wonder what's going to happen to him with the trade deadline. It feels weird to also rank him so highly and still be so confident in him when he's striking out the fewest hitters of his entire career, but I do think a big reason for that is Sonny Gray, more than any point in his career, is leaning more so into his cutter. And he's doing so against hitters from both sides of the plate, where he's kind of now replaced his changeup that was always a little bit inconsistent against the lefties. And his cutter and his sinker are now the bulk of what he's doing against righties. So it looks like Sonny Gray is shooting for more soft contact, trying to pitch more deeply into games, losing velocity fast because he's old. But I like Sonny Gray a lot. I think Sonny Gray is another perpetually underrated guy. Another guy whose stats still look really ugly, but it seems like he's reverted right back into form. Nick Lodolo. Massive buy low right now in Lodolo. He missed the first 6 weeks of the season with a blister issue. The third straight season, Nick Lodolo spent time on the injured list with blisters. Blisters very rough for a pitcher because if you're pitching, it's hard for that to go away. Maybe he came back early because right when he came back, he had no feel for his changeup or his curveball whatsoever. Couldn't spin them. The feel has come back over his last few starts. I'm recording this, again, the day before he's pitching against the Mets on Wednesday. Nick Lodolo torments the Mets. He eviscerates them every single time he ever faces them. So I'm confident with this video coming out like right around the time or right after he's pitching against the Mets in that game on Wednesday, that Nick Lodolo could be rising up to be a top 30 starting pitcher in the league very soon. And again, someone, if there was an impatient owner in your 10-team league who cut bait Lodolo too early, or if you think he's a buy low right now in your 12 or 14-team league, he's a guy I'm staring at this moment. Then we have Landon Rupp. He's been a very consistent pitcher this whole season when his head is in the game and not thinking about other stuff right now, but still like Rupp's skills, still like his stuff. Guy whose stuff I still like his skills, but hate how he's pitched this year, Kyle Bradish. Kyle Bradish has been a disaster. He just can't seem to have a game where he actually has all of his stuff working together. And Kyle Bradish is a guy that has a really good slider and a really good curveball, but he hasn't really had them together at the same time. His fastball's also just been all over the place this year. Even just looking at the different degrees of movement that pitch has had, I love the ride it had on it last year, and it helped him really work inside more confidently against left-handed batters. It just hasn't had that same thing, start in, start out. So with that, Kyle Bradish has not been on the right track, but like for the game theory of it all, Bradish and the guy right below him, Framber Valdez right now, like too much of a good body of work for Framber Valdez. Too many years of having a great curveball to now have a horrible curveball. Too many years of striking out 22% of the batters he faced and getting a 60% ground ball rate to have neither of those stats super close to that right now. I just feel like it's going to click eventually. And again, for the game theory of it all, in 10-team leagues, these are the kinds of pitchers you want on your bench. In 12-team leagues, these are the kind of players you do not give up on. Again, if you're so frustrated you have to give up on them, I will not fault you, but I will always still tell you to pick them up and put them on there on the chance it works back out. And then closing out with the Angels, Reed Detmers and Jose Soriano. Very inconsistent, both of these guys. Soriano, that first month was so much fun. Like, how much fun with Jose Soriano's April? He's mostly been kind of the same guy he was last year over the last 2 months, but also being just a little bit better. So if we re-anchor our expectations and kind of just forget what happened in April, I think we're very happy with Jose Soriano being a top 50 pitchers. And Reed Detmers, he just shows the flashes all the time, but still just gets so wonky sometimes against the righties. I like seeing where the changeup has been, but then it goes away. I love the slider sometimes I don't. Fastball's been consistent. Hopefully one of these guys can get out of Anaheim at the trade deadline, because if they went to teams who really, really knew what they were doing, I feel like we'd have two monsters here. Now we have tier 8. This will take us almost through the top 60 pitchers. So if you guys are in 10-team leagues, you only start 5 starting pitchers a week. These are the kinds of guys that are really making us make decisions every single week. But we have Will Warren, who I think I'm a little lower on the consensus. Talk about him in a second. Michael Soroka, Emerson Hancock, Troy Melton, Ryan Weathers, Ben Brown, Dustin May, the biggest riser on this video this week, Trey Savage, Griffin Jacks, and Robbie Ray. With Will Warren, I know the results are still good. I know he usually just pitches well, but I look at his stuff and like nothing is different from last year. And it's just really weird to me. His approach against left-handed batters isn't really that much better, with still just throwing so many more sweepers and sinkers and finding a way to be effective. I'm worried about the weather warming in New York and how that's going to impact his home run issue at Yankee Stadium, but like, I think he's just stuck where he's at, and I'm going to stay lower than him on consensus, which I apologize for, but we'll see how that winds up when the season ends. Michael Soroka's had such an amazing resurgence season. Great fastball and curveball. He just finds a way to be effective against everybody. He's awesome. Emerson Hancock, big faller lately. That great new vert he had in his fastball in the early part of the season has kind of faded, and now he's going back into being more of a sinker baller. So I am worried I'm overranking him just based on what we saw early, and I guess my hope possibly he can get that back, but I think he has big fall apart potential here, especially as the Mariners are having this just battle with their starting pitchers right now, going with a 6-man, but also using some piggybacking while Ryan Sloan and Cade Anderson are just lighting Double-A up. I think one of those guys conceivably could wind up taking Emerson Hancock's spot by the end of the season, but as of right now, he's still pitching totally fine, so we're not going to try and be doomers and like jump ahead and think all that way ahead. Troy Melton and the Tigers, I've talked to you guys a lot about him this month. I love his stuff. I love how deeply he's pitching into games. I think the whiffs will come because of how good the stuff is. He had a weird little back stiffness flare-up on Monday night, but all accounts are telling us that he's okay. He will make his next scheduled start, and he won't need an trip to the injured list. Ryan Weathers is next on this list. I'm kind of scared about Weathers, and the way I'm pre-scared about Will Warren is that the home run issue has come back in a big way for Weathers as the weather has warmed. Weathers. And also his command just kind of going in and out naturally. I'm still such a big fan of Ryan Weathers' stuff. I still really love the way he's incorporated the new sinker into his repertoire this year. But we are seeing a little bit more of the downside, while still also acknowledging it's been a great season. He's a fringy top 50 starting pitcher. Ben Brown, a similar way. The sinker's been so real for him, and that paired with his knuckle curveball, with his great velocity, he just looks like a really solid starting pitcher. Not like a star yet, like some of his stats would dictate, but again, a fringy top 50 guy who needs to be on basically every single roster in a 10-team league. Similarly, Dustin May. Dustin May coming off a complete game. Was it a shutout or was it the one run on Monday night against the Padres? I'm going to double check on that here in a second while I talk to you guys. Filibuster. Yeah, complete game shutout against the Padres. 9 strikeouts. Just the way that he's now reincorporated the cutter that he kind of spammed too much last year with the Red Sox when they made that hilarious trade for him that didn't work out compared to how good he's pitching now, and the new changeup. My colleague at NBC Sports, Eric Samolsky, sat down with May last week when the Cardinals were in town to face the Mets, talked to him about expanding that repertoire, talked to him about trying to make sure his sweeper could still be a star while using his other pitches to set it up. It's also really cool to see how he's taken a little bit off of his fastball. Used to be a 98, 99 guy, now more of a 96, 97 guy, but his ability to command it more at that velocity has really helped that a lot. He looks awesome right now. He's one of the best resurgence stories in all of Major League Baseball. And again, 10-team leagues, he has to be on a roster, fringe top 50 guy. And this even might be too low. Dustin May might be getting significantly better. He's a guy that, if we do this again in July, he could easily be a top 35 starting pitcher if he stays in this trajectory. Guy who's moved way down for me recently, Trey Savage. The fear I had about Trey Savage when he was coming up as a prospect with his crazy high vert fastball, the nasty split, and the quality slider, but not a great slider, was sometimes possibly an inability to properly challenge hitters in the zone, relying a little bit too much on chase. What we've seen now from Savage in his last few starts is relying too much on chase. The hitters are not chasing, and they're drawing a bunch of walks, and then they put him in a corner, then he has to come in the zone. The only pitch he can really come in the zone with is the fastball, and if hitters are very much expecting the fastball, it's easier to line it up than when they have to prepare for that splitter as well, because it's just not a zone pitch. So that's kind of where Savage is at right now. I trust him, and I trust the Blue Jays coaching staff to help him with his adjustments, but he needs to pitch ahead. And I don't know how he's going to be able to get over this most recent hump and try and do that. And to close out this tier, Griffin Jackson, Robbie Ray. I've talked to you guys a lot about Jax recently too. I think he's one of the firmest risers in the league right now. We're only kind of just waiting for the Rays to unleash him more steadily as a starting pitcher, get past this 5th inning kind of line they're keeping him stuck at. He also had a blister issue over the last few weeks that I think he's getting over. It's a very deep and complete pitch mix with a fastball that's still hanging around 94, 95 miles per hour, a sinker, one of the best sweepers in the league, a nice changeup, a cutter, a curveball. He has every single tool in his arsenal, and I think he's going to continue to rise over the course of the season. And Robbie Ray, I mean, I don't know how you give up so many home runs in San Francisco. He just is kind of mid right now, and that's how he's ranked. Moving on now here, the tier 9. This is where we start to get a little bit fringier in 12-team leagues. These guys are still probably consistently on every roster in the league, but we're getting a little bit closer to the streamer zone, or where maybe if you have a roster crunch where you could consider to drop guys. Ryan Nelson, Sandy Alcantara, Gage Jump, Casey Mize back this week, Davis Martin, Cade Cavalli, Justin Robleski, Roki Sasaki, and Edward Cabrera. Really wonky list here. Ryan Nelson, I think I'm just a little bit partial to Ryan Nelson. I love the fastball, but over the last few starts, the swing and miss hasn't been there. And when the swing and miss isn't there, and he's a guy who's still working to find his breaking ball consistency and quality, you can have blow-up starts like he just had over the weekend. So I still trust Ryan Nelson, but I understand if you don't. Same with Sandy Alcantara. I kind of love the fact that Sandy Alcantara has just become this Chad Innings eater now who doesn't miss tons of bats, but at least works deeply into games so he doesn't get crushed. So again, that's a good bench streamer in a 12-team league. And when I say bench streamer, this is a guy you keep on your team and you put them in your lineup when they face bad opponents. You probably put them on the bench when they face good opponents. Similarly with Gage Jump, I'm not really looking at his opponents as much as I'm looking at where he's pitching, because pitching home in Sacramento or that 1 week in ridiculous Las Vegas is a disaster, but the fastball quality has been so good that's kind of helped him overcome that. I like the slider. He's mixed in more changeups. I'm still looking to see some curveballs, but Gage Jump's a nice starting pitcher. Casey Mize, quality guy, back-end streamer, back for the Tigers this week. Davis Martin, I keep nudging him up the rankings. I still don't love the stuff, but I love how much he mixes it up. I love how much of a feels like a man he's becoming on the mound. Last weekend, toe-to-toe with Chris Sale, beat him, was really jacked up while he was doing it. Cade Cavalli has really high peaks and really low floors, so he kind of is the pure epitome of this bench streamer type because we're still looking for a second swing and miss pitch from him. Knuckle curve is great. Fastball has decent action on it, good velocity, but it's not really the best thing in the world. So eventually I really want to see a Cade Cavalli sweeper get more consistent. I think that's coming. Justin Robleski, sometimes he misses bats, sometimes he doesn't. He's just not getting enough consistent strikeouts for me to really elevate him past year, despite really crispy looking ratios and now consistently sitting in like the mid 95, 96 range. Roki Sasaki, we kind of saw the harm of Roki Sasaki last Friday where it looked like he was building and building and building. The fastball was back. The shape was good. The velo was good. The command was good. The splitter's always nasty. The slider command looked as good as it had since he reached the major leagues. And then he just lays a stinker against the Angels, which kind of is the thing with Roki Sasaki, where his command can be so bad at times and his fastball quality can be so bad at times that even if you try to just stream him against the bad offenses, anyone in the league can light him up if he's off. But if he's on, he can dominate the best lineups in the league. So that's someone that's really just a nightmare to own in fantasy baseball. And then lastly, kind of similarly, Edward Cabrera just can't get himself back on track after the blister issue. Just doesn't really have the same feel for everything. I was curious if with the blister issue, if it may have come because he was really spamming his changeups. And he was one of the best changeups in the league. It's kind of not like other pitchers' changeups because it moves a lot more and is thrown way harder, sitting like 94, 95 miles an hour. But he was throwing it so much as the season was going on, as he lost the trust of his breaking balls. I wonder if that maybe impacted him with that blister, and now why he's thrown slightly fewer changeups since returning from the injured list. Again, I don't know. That's all hearsay from me, but not seeing the consistency with Edward Cabrera enough to tell you guys you need to roster him in every league or you need to even, God forbid, be starting him. And now we have tier 10, the last of the real trustworthy guys before I'm going to just rattle off 30 names at the end of this. Spencer Arrighetti, Walbert Urania, Nick Martinez, Andrew Abbott, Foster Griffin, Taj Bradley, Shane Rowan, Stephen Kolek, Noah Cameron. Again, I said really trust guys, but you heard those names, not super trust guys. Arrighetti's had really crispy ratios all season, but it's so curveball reliant. I get a little bit scared about him start in, start out. Walbert Urania continues to build, and he's a guy I'm watching so intently every single week because if that sweeper ever became even relatively more consistent, I think this would be a clear top 50 pitcher in the league. He has the velocity. He has the really strong power changeup. He just has no sense of command whatsoever. He's kind of become like the new Jose Soriano, where Jose Soriano used to be this kind of story with the Angels, with the splitter more so in the changeup, but still, Walbert Urania is just so close to clicking, and there's a guy I think at one point in his career will really click. Nick Martinez continues to be great. Just a strong bevy of breaking balls, pitches deeply into games. He's a fun watch. Andrew Abbott's gotten back on track despite pretty poor stats so far, but I'll still never really trust Andrew Abbott as much as the next guy. Foster Griffin, this guy just knows how to pitch, moves around the changeup and the breaking stuff while manipulating the edges with his two different kinds of fastballs. I think 3 different kinds of fastball, actually, if I remember right, but I think his cutter is a bit more of a baby slider than the kind of like fastball-ish thing. Yeah, so this is more of a baby slider, but still treats it like a fastball, and again, just throws those sinkers to lefties, but Foster Griffin's a really fun pitcher. He's, again, will never have the stuff, the strikeout stuff, the swing and miss stuff to ascend past this spot for me personally, but he's someone I have on plenty of rosters right now. I'm happy to. Complete opposite side of this coin, Taj Bradley. If Taj Bradley had Foster Griffin's command, Taj Bradley would be a top 20 pitcher in baseball. But Taj Bradley's had dreadful command going on like 6 straight weeks now. He didn't get one single chase on either his splitter or his curveball last Wednesday in his start against the Tigers, with one of just the absolute worst pitch charts I've really ever seen on these things. And sadly, it has become the same story for Taj Bradley after it felt like he got over a hump through April and the first part of May. That's just kind of the guy he is, though. And we have to just treat him like that. Shane Drowan, I'm watching this guy closely. He throws a nice sinker. He's got a really solid fastball from the left side with the nice fastball triangle the Brewers love, with the cutter and the sinker and the slider that can miss bats. When he's locating it effectively on the back foot of righties, he's someone that, as he continues to get unleashed as a starting pitcher, I think he's going to be a pretty good one through the second half. And then closing that with two Royals, Stephen Kolek and Noah Cameron. Kolek's never blown anybody away. He's got a deep pitch mix. He's comfortable with all of his breaking stuff against usually hitters from both sides of the plate. He's a guy that's just really good in mixing up his repertoire against guys from both sides of the plate. Against the righties, it's tons of sinkers and sliders while using his fastball just to play off that sinker a little bit. And now finding some consistency with more sweepers. And against the lefties, comfortable enough with that fastball, throwing it at the leathers, if I'm not mistaken. Last start I watched from Kolek, tons of high fastballs at the leathers. Only 94, not being afraid to throw it there, and just really, really artfully blending cutters and changeups off of it. Fun, old school kind of pitcher, great roster oatmeal. Noah Cameron's been nice lately. He's working that changeup again. The fastball is being located well, similarly at the leathers to righties. I like what I've seen from Noah Cameron lately, but he's very fringy to me. Now I'm going to run through the last 30 pitchers here from tiers 11 and 12. Here's tier 11, Merrill Kelly, Sean Manaea, Trevor Rogers, Tanner Bybee, Bryce Elder, Bubba Chandler, Peter Lambert, Shane Baz, Michael Wacha, Mackenzie Gore, Ian Seymour, Robert Gasser, and Kodai Senga. I mean, I'm recording this. It's 7:29 right now, and I just watched Kodai Senga through the other side of my eye walk the first two hitters in his return start against the Reds, then immediately give up a home run to Stal Stewart. So I'm never going to trust Kodai Senga. I just want to throw that at the top of this tier. But I'm trusting his teammate Sean Manaea a lot more lately. Sean Manaea's got his fastball velocity back up around 92 miles per hour with fantastic extension. He's rediscovered a lot of consistency with his sweeper. Once in a while, he's mixing in some cutters and some changeups as well. But just having that fastball and that sweeper, tunneling them high and away to the right-handed batters and letting that sweeper just fall down on their back foot. When he's on and when he's in the right groove, just, sidewinding on them, it's really good. It's actually been good lately, and he's someone who's way back on my radar. Merrill Kelly, solid, sturdy veteran. Trevor Rogers kind of trying to find it, but still having the fastball velocity, which makes me believe. Tanner Bybee, the cutter quality has jumped back a little bit, so I'm back in a bit on Tanner Bybee inside my top 80. Bryce Elder, I think it's just all falling apart before our very eyes right now. The command that was exquisite in the early part of the season has been pretty bad lately. Even with the new cutter, even with the new slider shape, I don't think Bryce Elder is really going to be a big-time serious option for us in 12-team leagues moving forward. On the flip side, I'm hoping that Bubba Chandler has finally gotten over the hump. Oh, look at James talking about Bubba Chandler again, but he threw so many good sliders in his most recent start on Monday against who was that against? I'm trying to get a memory right now. I think that was it wasn't the Marlins. No, it was against the Athletics. Was it the Athletics? No, yeah, I was right. It was Saturday against the Marlins. I was busy on Saturday. I was the Knicks won the championship, so my bad I'm missing that one. But just seeing Bubba Chandler have confidence in throwing his slider as a swing and miss pitch, that was what we like to see from Bubba Chandler last year, playing off that really, really good fastball. 8 swings and misses on that slider on Saturday. That is the thing that Bubba Chandler needs, because the fastball, no one's going to catch up to it anyway, but that can't be your swing and miss pitch. That can't be your strike one pitch and your strike three pitch. It's just you need to do more than that. And I think with Bubba Chandler finding that slider, he's a guy, again, for the game theory of it all in their deeper leagues. You just put him on your bench and hope for the best. Peter Lambert's been solid. Shane Baz has gotten rid of the cutter, which we liked, and he's found more consistency, but now without any kind of ceiling. Michael Wacha, quality. Mackenzie Gore, he looks like he might be getting on a good command streak again. I can't keep doing this with Mackenzie Gore, but I still kind of like him a little bit. Ian Seymour, I talked about in the waiver video last week, moving into the rotation, using that changeup and the slider with the nice fastball shape. I like Ian Seymour a lot. I think he continues to build up the starting pitcher. Same with Robert Gasser on the Brewers. I really like the underlying stuff. I love the situation. I hated him pitching in Las Vegas. He didn't have a very good start there, but no one did if you guys saw what happened last week. So again, another guy firmly on my radar in 12-team leagues to take his bench spot right now. And like 20 more guys here to close it out. Tatsuya Imai, he's just not consistent enough. The pitch quality isn't good enough, but he's still better than these guys below him. Zebby Matthews not missing enough bats. Anthony Kay had a really nice stretch. Now he's struggling a bit more. I like the fastball-ish. I like how many secondaries there are, but none of them really stand out, so we'll see. Same goes for Connor Prelip. The slider just is not good enough, kind of alone right now to carry him as a starting pitcher. JT Ginn is quality. If he was on a different team, he'd probably be ranked around 70, but he's 90 because he needs to take a hit for home park being Sacramento. Eduardo Rodriguez, boring vet who's pitched well most of the year. Brandon Young can't really pitch deeply into games, but I've liked what I've seen recently from him. Brandon Sproat may have turned a corner. We're just waiting for that cutter to come around with Sproat. I think the second that cutter snaps into form, we'll see a top 70 pitcher in Brandon Sproat, and it looked like a glimmer of that over last weekend. We can't trust. Aaron Nola, I don't know, this guy stinks, but sometimes he misses bats. Seth Lugo, again, just kind of grinds his way there. I'm still ranking Trevor McDonald because I still really like the sinker-slider combination. It looks like maybe we're waiting on Tyler Mahle, but if the trade deadline comes, Trevor McDonald's going to stick in that rotation. And some other guys, just really deep leagues I'm keeping an eye on. Tyler Phillips maintaining 95-mile-an-hour velocity, moving into the Marlins rotation from their bullpen. Kumar Rocker beginning to spam sliders again, which that's a great pitch for him. Matthew Liberatore, he doesn't miss that many bats, but the Cardinals pitch him deep into games, and he has great defense behind him, which helps. Mitch Keller, kind of a mess, but fringy streamer. Randy Vasquez, similar. Grant Holmes, similar. Andrew Alvarez, lefty with a nice hook. I'm keeping a close eye on with the Nationals. But right there, top 106 pitchers at this moment in fantasy baseball. Video was a monster. Again, you guys let me know in the comments if you got to the end. What'd you think of this? And honestly, if you guys got to the end, think about the secret words to put in the comments for anyone that sat through his entire video. What about a pair? Just say pairs. Just like Rick Ross, pairs. I want to see pairs in the comments if you guys got to the end. Thank you so much. Going to start folding in some more regular baseball content again. I might start doing some trade deadline content in this channel. I think I'm going to do another one of those using data to find a breakout player again, but focus on hitters instead of pitchers. That'll probably be over the next 2 weeks. But thank you guys so much. See you next time.